This episode of Moola was brought to you by Just Health. Hi world, this is a frugal millennial. Welcome to my podcast, Moola, where I talk about all things finance with my friends. Today, I have on my show, Adam. Now, Adam and I met about 15 plus years ago. We used to go to bars, watch bands, and went to some of the biggest parties in Melbourne, but we never used to talk about money. In fact, this will be, I think, our first time ever talking about finance. So welcome to my show, Adam. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. It's great to be here.
That's great. When we were younger, why do you think we never ever talked about finance at all?
I had a lot of insecurity around money, I think, when I was younger because I never really had any. I just kind of lived paycheck to paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
I at times struggled to even afford to pay rent. I didn't come from a family that had money in general. And so yeah, it just was sort of something that I don't know that I was ashamed of not having money, but it just wasn't something I thought about. And I also think that when we were younger, or at least for me, I was more focused on what was happening then, and I didn't really have a lot of I hadn't really given the future much consideration, to be honest with you. I was still trying to figure out who I was then and there, who my friends were, what I was interested in, defining my personality, all of those sorts of things. So money was really secondary. It was just a vehicle to kind of do the things I wanted to do. I never really thought I was going to be rich. It can be in poor taste to talk about money, and nobody wants to really flash around how much of it they have
Yeah.
because that can make them seem out of touch. And also, of course, I think there's a lot of stigma in society towards people who don't have money. There's, you know, a lot of classism, and I certainly felt classism growing up. And yeah, so I think on the other end of that, people who don't have it are also not really free to talk about not having it because they're ashamed of not having it.
Yeah.
So nobody ends up talking about it at all. It just happens in these kind of over sort of other ways, I guess. We send messages other ways by what we wear or the car we drive or those other things.
I agree. So when did you start thinking about finance?
I guess when I sort of first got a real job, and by that I mean I'd finished uni, I'd gone abroad to teach English in Korea for a year, and then I'd come back to Australia, and so when I was teaching in Korea, it was kind of, they give you an apartment and they give you a good wage, but it's not really enough to save.
Wow.
And also at that time, I had a bit of credit card debt as well. Because I didn't really understand credit cards. They were just sending them to me in the mail. And so, yeah, I was really just struggling to stay afloat with paying my credit card debt. And I'd come back to Australia and I sort of got a real job as a digital marketer, kind of my first professional job, and started making money. It wasn't a lot of money, but then I just sort of, I was able to pay off those credit card debts, and I've since been completely debt free. I've never really had a credit card debt since then, but it just, I guess it was just realizing how much interest I was paying. And when I'd gone to Korea, I couldn't afford, all I could afford to do was keep paying the interest. And so I really wanted to change that. And and with that first job, it was kind of, I started to think more about superannuation and that sort of thing. But I guess at the same time, like I said, it was still an entry-level professional job. So I really wasn't making a lot of money. But I did sort of see a trajectory at least. Like, okay, if I continue with this, I will get more money. There will be more money coming in, and then I'll be able to put more away or think about investing.
So what do you do for a living currently?
I am a design researcher. Sometimes they're called UX researchers or user experience researchers. So what I do is I research how people use technology, apps, websites, platforms, that sort of thing. And I study how people are using them, and then I make recommendations on design to improve the design, to decrease friction, and improve kind of usability. So it's
Wow.
really varied, and that's what I like about it. I'm always doing something different. Some days I'm a data scientist, other
Mm.
days I'm a therapist, other days I'm um, conducting surveys. So it just depends. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds very interesting. So is that your dream job?
When I was a little boy, I actually wanted to be a scientist.
Ah.
And then I wanted to be an actor. And I
Yeah.
don't know, I guess I don't really know what my dream job is. I'm not sure what that is. I actually went to grad school to study journalism and very
Yes.
quickly realized that that was not my dream job.
Yeah.
Um, and
Well,
so then I kind of pivoted back to this.
yeah.
But I
Well,
like what I'm doing.
interestingly, the guest I had last week, Denise, she's actually a journalist. So
Yeah,
when you're back in Melbourne next time, yeah, we'll sit all together and have a chat.
that'd be awesome.
So do you have any side hustles?
Side hustles. Well, I mean, sort of. I do. So with the UX research that I
Mm.
do, I also tend to kind of do a little bit of everything for other people as well. So sometimes I'm a little bit of a web developer.
Wow.
I do a little bit of video editing and animation every now and then for someone.
Wow.
And they're not really things that are, it's not like, yeah, it is. I guess it's a side hustle, but I'm not really doing it to make money. It's more just kind of something that maybe sometimes I'll get paid for. Another
Hmm.
thing is photography, um, cryptocurrency. I've been
Hmm.
into for a few years, and that's
Hmm.
been probably the most lucrative hobby that I've found. Um, yeah, I'm not kind of walking dogs or anything like that. It's definitely on, like I'm looking for ways to make money online. I'm also
Hmm.
kind of looking at e-commerce, the e-commerce space at the
Hmm.
moment, and
Hmm.
researching and studying that. And
Hmm.
that's because I had a client in that space and I was kind of working on their Shopify store
Yeah.
and just thought it was so interesting. And so
Mm.
yeah, so I'm always kind of looking for like new projects to get in
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's good that you're diversifying your capabilities or your skill set. So in case this job doesn't work out, you can always fall into something else. That's really good. So you told me before offline that you are currently renting. So
Yeah.
what's the rent like in Brooklyn? You said you're in.
Yeah, so I'm currently living in Brooklyn.
Mhm.
The neighborhood I live in is Park Slope.
Okay,
And for anyone who's in Melbourne, it's a little bit like North Fitzroy.
nice.
Um, yeah, it's kind of like a
Hipster
historic
town.
district. Yeah, it's not as hipster as sort of, so, you kind of like Williamsburg is kind of more like a kind of
Right,
Fitzroy comparison, whereas like
right.
Park Slope is a little bit more North Fitzroy. It's like
Okay.
the terrace houses, but here it's brownstones, and you're close to the park, which is Prospect Park, and it's very kind of you've got the food co-op. It's very yuppie, I would say,
Yeah.
um, and it is pricey. I'm not
Yeah.
going to lie, it's a pricey neighborhood, um, but yeah,
Yeah.
but
So
we actually have a modest kind of rent, so that's
rent.
good. Yeah.
Okay. So do you think living in America is, or where you are, is more expensive than compared to Australia or inner city living?
Yeah, look, I do. And it sort of manifests in different ways. One of the main ones is like health insurance. The
Yeah.
fees that you spend on that here is just crazy. Rent can
Mm,
be extremely high as well. Um, but then on the other hand, like I'm getting paid more here than I was in Australia.
yeah.
But not at first. When I first came here, I was working at Trader Joe's, just trying to make ends meet, trying to get
I
started.
didn't know that.
Yeah, like I was doing shifts at Trader Joe's,
Hmm.
and doing photography and just basically doing anything. And getting $15 an hour. I worked at a photo agency for
Mm,
$15 an hour. Like you can really get exploited here, but it's
yeah.
almost like once you pass that threshold, then suddenly you can make all of this, like you can make a really good wage.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, then you have to kind of think about other things like health insurance on top of that. So
Mm,
I don't
mm,
know how much more money I'm coming out with at the end of the day because there's
yeah.
a lot of other variables that you have to
Yeah.
think about. So yeah, it's
So how
expensive.
much is health insurance?
Well, it is, it depends.
Hmm.
And it's incredibly complicated because you never really know. I mean, you're paying like a few $100s a month on the insurance, but then when you need to have anything done,
Okay.
there's on top of that, like,
Yeah.
I had a procedure done here, and it was like $4,000 I was out of pocket from my
Wow.
insurance company, and
Yeah.
that's on top of paying a monthly. And so I was just
Mm-hmm.
furious with that. Like, how is that possible that I can be spending so much on health insurance, and then when I need
Mm-hmm.
to use it, you know, and another thing was like I had to get this medicine and the insurance company would not cover that. And so it was
Mm-hmm.
going to cost over $1,000 for one medicine.
Wow.
That same medicine I could have picked up in Australia for
30,
$35.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so it would have been cheaper for me to fly back to Australia just to get
Mm.
drugs.
Because living expense is so expensive in America, do you budget?
Definitely. And
Yeah.
and in a way, it's really taught me to because I don't have anyone putting anything in we call it 401k here, but it's
Mm-hmm.
superannuation.
Yeah.
I don't have anything like that happening. I
Mm-hmm.
can't really rely on anyone. I've got no one to fall back on.
Yeah.
So in a sense, I've had to like take control of my own financial future. And I think in
Yeah.
Australia, I had this
Yeah.
kind of, oh, if I'm unemployed, then I can get unemployment benefits until I can
Mm-hmm.
find a job.
Mm-hmm.
There's a security system. It's a social insurance policy, if you like. If
Mm-hmm.
something goes wrong,
Yeah.
it'll be okay. I'll be able to figure it out. But
Mm-hmm.
here, it's like if something goes wrong, I could very well end up homeless. Yeah, so I think there's like a definite sort of immediacy about
Mm-hmm.
having to make sure that you're kind of looking after yourself. You can't really rely on anyone else here. You're on your own.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very unfortunate to hear. So are you frugal?
Yeah, so I do set budgets for myself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I have like an $800 a month grocery budget, and I
Wow.
love that because what I do is I also have like a $150 bonus if I meet that budget, which
Oh.
is like, so I give myself so there's an
Mm-hmm.
incentive there,
Yeah.
um, and then I could do what I want with that,
Yeah.
buy film for my camera or like whatever,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so
Reward
yeah, so I think
yourself.
it's really setting
Mm-hmm.
these like small goals,
Mm-hmm.
are really important and
Mm-hmm.
finding other ways to budget. So I buy in bulk. We go to Costco.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I like doing meal prep and cooking things for
Mm-hmm.
myself. I love trying to recreate things I've had
Mm-hmm.
at like, because it's not like I don't go to a nice restaurant. It's not like I won't go on holidays and or travel and then budget to like try things and go to
Mm-hmm.
restaurants that I want to go to. I do all of those things, but then it's also like, okay, I don't need to eat out every night of the week here in New
Mm.
York. It's the food's not that great everywhere anyway. Like you can't eat this, like what are you going to
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
So I've just
Mm.
sort of again seen it as an opportunity to learn how to cook, learn
Yeah.
how to like what goes into the food that I'm eating. Can I make it myself? I got a dehydrator recently,
Oh,
and I've just
nice.
been like growing stuff on my patio, growing
Yeah.
peppers and dehydrating
Dehydrating it.
them, and
Yeah.
just like looking for all these ways that I can,
Mm-hmm.
um, like, yeah, I do. I look at something and I'm like, okay, what goes into making this, and like,
Mm.
why is it worth this much, and can I do it
Yeah.
myself,
Yeah.
and is it
Yeah.
worth doing it myself?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. You got to weigh up the time and the money.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it is a time thing, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's also like for me, a lot of that is time off a screen, and so much of my work is on
Mm.
a screen that
Mm-hmm.
it's like I love doing those things because it gives
Yeah.
me a chance to do just detach from technology.
Yeah. Rest your eyes.
Like I'm okay to buy an
Mm-hmm.
$8,000 antique camera because it's an appreciating asset that I will
Yes.
use.
Love
Do you know
it.
what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm not going to go and buy a Canon whatever,
Yeah.
but I will go buy that Leica from 1970
Yes.
because I it's only going to increase in value, and
Yeah.
while it's increasing in value, I can use it and love
Yeah.
it.
It's
Like,
like people who want to buy Rolex watches. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah,
Excellent.
so I do have like, so although I'm extremely frugal in some
Mm.
ways, in other ways, like, yeah, and like I bought a sewing machine. I got a sewing machine for my birthday at the start of this year, and I've been loving that
Ooh.
because I can mend clothes, like I
Yeah.
can mend things myself now, so I
Hmm.
don't have to replace my jeans when they like I can kind of like make them last. So it's kind of
Yeah.
funny how I'll do that. Like I'll go
Yeah.
and buy that $8,000 camera,
Yeah.
but then I'll go and repair my $50 Levi's, and like
I love it though. It means that,
yeah,
because there's so much fashion currently
definitely.
going to waste, and Australia is the biggest country that's producing waste from fabric and textiles and whatnot. So
Mm.
it's good that you're fixing it rather than throwing it away.
Yeah, I really, I've seen a few of these documentaries about all of the chemicals that go into these
Mm,
rivers in South Asia and all these places that are producing a lot of these fabrics for a lot of the fast fashion companies. And I just,
mm,
I'm wanting to be more sustainable, and I'm always looking for ways to be more sustainable. And so
mhm,
it felt like it made sense to me. I also hate buying clothes and having them last for like not that long, and then you have to
mm,
like replace them. So yeah, I just have this attitude towards stuff these days that's kind of changed. Now I'm like, okay, is it appreciating or depreciating? Like, is it going to last or is it
mm,
just consumable? And I'm more interested in things that will last. Like, I just want to buy things once now and
mhm.
make them last as long as possible.
Do you
So
up shop?
I do, yeah. And that's another reason I was excited to get my sewing machine
Yeah,
because I'm like, now I can go around to, we call them thrift stores here, but I
yeah,
can go to the op shops and I
yeah.
can find something I like, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't fit me because I can
Mm,
alter it, right?
yeah.
So again, just like looking for ways that I can do things myself to save
Hmm.
money.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Any other money saving tips besides your sewing machine?
So I'm always looking on Google Flights for
Mhm,
deals. As I mentioned, I do like to travel, and I
mhm,
do, I still want to kind of experience the world and all of that.
mhm,
But yeah, I'm just really shrewd in how I approach it. I go off peak, I look for deals. I've
mhm,
got, I know to go on orbits and all these different things. I'm
mhm,
very no frills as well when I'm traveling. Like
mhm.
I can stay at a nice place, but I'm also okay to stay at, you know, a capsule hotel for a
Yeah.
few nights if
I
I
want to
need to,
try those. Those are awesome.
yeah, like
They look awesome.
exactly like why not try it? Exactly.
Yeah.
And I sort of have that approach. I'm like, cool, I'm totally fine staying in a five-star hotel, but it's okay if we stay in a tent, and go camping instead. That could be even more fun, actually,
Yeah.
frankly.
You mentioned that you had a 401k. Do you have a superannuation still?
Yeah, I've got my super in Australia.
Mm,
It's just sitting there. I haven't done anything to it since I left, and
right.
I've been living out of Australia for over 7 years now.
Yeah. Right.
Um, but I think, part of the reason I started getting into investing and cryptocurrency is because I saw that that's basically what my superannuation and 401k was. It was like a
Mm,
bunch of other people, a hedge
mhm,
fund,
mhm,
sticking my money somewhere to make it grow. And I
mm,
just thought, why don't I just learn how to do this myself?
yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I haven't, obviously that's fine and it's there, but I also just wanted to do it myself. So yeah,
Yeah.
I've got both. Yeah.
Yeah. So when a certain Australian infamously said, when I was trying to buy my first home, I wasn't buying smash avocados for $19 and four coffees at $4 each. How did this make you feel? And is there any truth to this?
I just thought it was super dumb because think
Mm,
about like, okay, we go out to a cafe, Melbourne, and there's such an incredible cafe culture and scene there. That is a
yeah.
huge part of the local economy. So
Mm-hmm.
what are you saying? People shouldn't support that or contribute to that
Mm,
economy?
mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
which is it? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. It's a straw man argument to me.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, like, what? Should we not eat healthy food? Should we not eat good food? Should
Yeah.
we just prepare everything ourselves? Like, are we not entitled to the same diet that you're having?
Yeah.
In here you've got these food deserts where
Mm,
there are neighborhoods that have no access to fresh food or vegetables. Like it's
mm,
just, and so like, what is that? What you're saying? Should we all start eating mee goreng because we're poor students and save all our
yeah.
money? It's just not
Yeah.
realistic. It's great if your parent, if you've been given that opportunity, but it's always someone whose parents are super rich who says something like that. I
Yeah.
mean, I grew up in the Fitzroy Housing Commission flats. I'm the first person in my family to go to university, the only person in my family to go to university. I had to work two jobs and
Mm,
live out of home to do that. I had
yeah.
no housing after I was 18.
Yeah.
So it's all well and good. And you know what? If I want to get a smashed avocado on toast, I will because it makes me feel a little bit better about my day. And maybe I'm not thinking that far ahead because I'm thinking about right now my immediate circumstance. So yeah,
Yeah.
I just think it's so tone deaf when people like that say that sort of thing. They just have no idea what life is like for other people
Yeah.
whose experience may have been a little bit different, you
Mm.
know. And it can really be, when life is falling apart, maybe that smashed avo on toast is the one thing that brightens up your day. Like,
Yeah.
I think there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, look at how much we spend on booze.
Now let's talk about your current love for investing. As you
Mm.
mentioned before, you are investing in cryptocurrency. So what are you investing in terms of what coins? Want to invest in crypto with ease? Use the sign up link to CoinSpot below to claim $10 worth of Bitcoin. Now back to the show.
The main token I'm holding is Ethereum, and I've been collecting that for a while now.
Yeah.
Next, I've got some Cardano,
Yeah.
which is similar to Ethereum. And I was picking those up for 7 cents, and
Wow.
I think they're now, what are they these days? They're about $1.64, but they've been higher. So, so
That's
that's
really
been a
good.
great one for me.
Yeah.
I've got a bag of them. Kasama is another one that I really like that I was
Yeah.
picking up early on, and they've just gone crazy. I've got some EOS, some Horizon, some Litecoin, some Chainlink, some Zcash. I've got a bunch of Tron, which I picked up for like next to nothing years ago.
Wow.
And I just hold these things. Like that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like I don't swing trade that much. Like if we
Mm-hmm.
enter a bear market, I will. But yeah, ultimately I'm kind of holding these long term. So that's why I'm
Mm-hmm.
never
Mm-hmm.
really too stressed out when a bump happens, like we
Yeah.
experienced
Yeah.
recently.
Mm.
Yeah, Polkadot's been interesting, and I think it has a lot of promise.
Yeah.
I've got some VeChain, some Neo. I do have some Bitcoin, so it will change. Like I might have mostly Bitcoin if Bitcoin is dominating, but because we're in this kind of alt cycle right now, and
Mm-hmm.
Ethereum is starting to really emerge as more of a leader,
Yeah.
I'm swinging more in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just all of these coins really. I probably have about 20 over 20 different tokens at the moment.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, quite a diverse portfolio really.
Yeah. Yeah. So how much of do you reckon your investment is in alternative coins?
Probably about 70%.
70%. Okay.
Yeah. At the moment, I think about 70% of my whole portfolio is alts, with about 30% being mostly Ethereum.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, and a lot of people, uh, you know, again, like that changes depending on what the market is doing. But because we're in a kind of alt cycle right now, I've a lot of it is in alts. But again, like I was saying to you, many of these I purchased so long ago
Yeah.
and they were so cheap then that I'm so far in front now. It doesn't really matter if they go down 20 or 30%.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also because I've been doing this for a while, I've got like the diamond hands. Like I don't like these things don't I've seen it before. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um yeah, so I'm much more steady. I remember when I first started, I was like losing money left, right, and center because I was just panic selling every
Mm,
single time the market
yeah.
moved.
So when did
Mhm.
you start?
It would have been around about 2018.
Yeah.
Before 2018, I'd never bought a share, never bought a stock, never bought a crypto asset. I had no
Wow.
investments. All I had was my superannuation.
So do you currently hold
Mm.
any shares?
I've got a lot of ETFs at the moment. I'm not really holding many shares. I just
Hmm.
sold a bunch of shares a few weeks ago, and I don't really have any Australian stock at the
Hmm.
moment. It's all over here in America.
Yeah.
The ETFs, I'm really into Kathy Wood's ETFs,
Hmm.
ARK, if you know ARK.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been doing so well lately, but again, like this is a long-term thing for me.
Hmm.
So I'm,
But she's
um,
had a few good predictions, like Tesla. She thinks that
yeah,
Tesla will go into 5 digits. So she was
yeah,
very aggressive early on. But yeah, there
that's
are a
right.
few, like CRISPR is very questionable. She's a big supporter of CRISPR, but that technology, it's still very at its infancy. So maybe it would
Yeah,
do well in the future, but it's
right.
currently just kind of diving a little bit. But yeah, she
Yeah.
some of the picks are pretty good.
I do have Kathy Wood to thank for all of the money we made off Tesla, picking
Yeah.
those up at $160 a piece when she was
Wow.
like Tesla, Tesla, Tesla,
Yeah.
and watching them go to like thousands of dollars,
Hmm.
like was just astonishing.
Speaking of investing in stocks, you can get up to $150 worth of free stocks by visiting the referral link below for Stake, which is an online stock trading platform that trades numerous US stocks.
With investing, like it's about like you're going to lose money,
Mm.
but if you're diverse,
Yeah.
things will even out. So I'm actually really cautious right now, and that's why I'm not really buying anything. I'm just
Hmm.
waiting,
Waiting. Yeah.
um, taking profits at different increments,
Hmm.
putting that aside because I
Hmm.
know that it's all cyclical. Things will turn around, they'll
Hmm.
fall down again, and
Hmm.
then I'll have some money to put back in.
How do you do your research on what crypto to buy?
A few sources. I use YouTube to kind of get a bird's eye view of like what a few people are talking about there.
Hmm.
But from there, like I go to metrics. So I
Hmm.
like Glassnode. I
Hmm.
like uh, I'll use a few different charts on TradingView. I look at a few key charts, which are like whole market. So I look at the altcoin perpetual futures. I
Hmm.
look at like the total crypto market, total market cap, which is an aggregate of the whole market. And so with that, I
Hmm.
can see not just what Bitcoin's doing, but what all the altcoins are doing in
Hmm.
sync. I look at Ethereum dominance. I look at Bitcoin dominance. I look at Binance coin dominance.
Hmm.
So I look at all of those to get a real sense of like what's happening in the market, and that
Hmm.
lets me know really if things are going to crash, because you can't really tell looking at individual coins,
Hmm.
because they're all kind of behaving really sort of in many ways, like they'll all mimic each other. Like as soon
Hmm.
as
Hmm.
Bitcoin crashes, all the money floods out of the alts. Like it's
Hmm.
very predictable once you've been watching it for a while.
Yeah.
And so if you can kind of just see what's about to happen and then just move or
Hmm.
swing trade
Hmm.
into
Hmm.
another thing, then you can kind of miss it.
What do you think money can help you with?
Um, for me, money is about security and not having to stress about, um, like as I mentioned, I grew up in commission housing, and never had money, like we just were so poor growing up. Like there were days where we just didn't even have good food to eat, frankly. Like, and so I think money, it's not that I'm expecting it to make me happy. I'm just expecting it to like be something I don't have to stress about anymore. And it
Hmm.
lets me then focus on other things. The other interesting side of that is I think that when I started to get money, it almost so it's like, I'd had this unstable childhood, I guess. And then when I kind of became an adult and things started to stabilize and the noise stopped,
Mm.
that's when like suddenly I had to acknowledge all the mental health aspects of that.
Hmm.
And it was like the money gave me time to think about that because before I never
Mm.
had time, I was just surviving. And
Mm.
yeah, so it's an interesting thing. Like it can really also, I think it depends on how you look at it. For me, like I said, I don't need to like drive around in a fancy car. I don't want a big house. I think my goal is to buy a tiny house, something like that. I'm very kind of modest in how I want to sort of live life. It's not about splashing that money around, and I just want enough, really, so that I don't have to think about it anymore. That's all.
Mm.
Not trying to be a multimillionaire here, although that'll be nice, and if that happens, that's cool. But yeah, it's more just about being able to live without stressing about it.
Now let's go through the lightning round. Question number one. Do you think money can bring you happiness?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Um, it's not going to make you happy, but it
Hmm.
can solve a lot of problems for you so that you can focus on getting happy. You've got to figure that out for yourself.
Number two, if you could go back in time and talk to your younger self about money, what would you say?
Invest, just put something away. Like it's crazy when you look at how much some of like the tech companies were worth, even just as far back as 2010. And it's like I just refuse to believe that I couldn't put $50 a week, a fortnight even, or a month away into something. And I just didn't, because I didn't
Mm.
understand. I thought I had to be an economist or have, I thought I had to understand. I just didn't understand how accessible that stuff was. It was inaccessible.
Yeah.
So yeah, what would I say to a younger self? Just put something away, buy something that's appreciating and not depreciating. I bought so much depreciating crap.
If you had won $20 million, what would you do?
I would, I honestly don't know what I would do with that much money. Probably never work again. Well, at least I wouldn't kind of work for money again. I would probably turn to, I don't know, like maybe being a community worker or doing something where I didn't see. Again, this is the other thing, like people choose jobs. One of the reasons I didn't go into journalism is because it's so financially unstable. There's no job security. The pay pretty much sucks. And coming from a financially unstable upbringing, like it was giving me post-traumatic stress almost to have to think about that. So I just think, we don't really pay people appropriate wages for what they do. So if I didn't have to think about money, maybe I could do something else, like volunteer at the Lost Dogs Home. I don't know what it would be exactly, but yeah, it's interesting to think about that, isn't it? Like what you would do if you didn't have to do it for money.
Warren Buffett or Cathie Wood?
Cathie Wood. I really respect Warren Buffett, but I do think that he is still kind of, I mean, the fact that he's been so slow to adopt crypto assets or acknowledge them as something meaningful is a shame. But I also understand, and he's pretty transparent about the fact that he doesn't advocate for anything he doesn't understand. And he said himself he doesn't understand it. It worries me that he doesn't understand it a little bit.
Where can we find you on social media?
I'm very quiet on social media.
Okay.
I am on Twitter, but I don't really do anything. It's Adam Inglis on Twitter. Yeah, but you can also, if you're ever looking for a UX researcher, go to my website, which is adaminglis.com.
Great. I'll also put that down below. Thank you so much for coming on to my second episode of Moola. I hope to see you back in Australia once this whole pandemic is over.
Can't wait. Get vaccinated, everyone.
And that is it of this episode of Moola. If you like this podcast, please share, like, and subscribe to my channel on YouTube. Don't forget to check out my links below to sign up for freebies. Let me know what you thought of this episode by visiting my Facebook page. Just search The Frugal Millennial. Thanks for listening.